of decisiveness provides to my chagrin only the need to ask again. Clench my teeth as I pretend that I've got reasons to defend these dead ends.
Today's podcast is brought to you by StrongHeartAcademy.com, where no heart is no victory. Second thing that we're brought to you by is BJJ2Go.com. And the third one is Rat Bat. When you have to remove rats, get a bat. Rat Bat. But this is all just trying to figure it out as I go. I have a couple friends that have a podcast, and they helped me. They actually inspired me and then helped me. And then I had another guy who's a pastor that I was on his podcast, Bob Faby, and he had a great setup, and he kind of inspired me to do it too. And he's a nice guy. He was on my podcast too. So that's kind of how I got started.
I think it's a great idea. This room's too. This is like, second I started watching some of your podcasts, I was like, dude, this room's classic. It's perfect for it.
Yeah, I set up all this,
and the chair and this
stuff, and
yeah, it's really
just for
good.
Fun, you know. It's like a man cave-ish type of thing.
It.
So, I've known you, I don't know how long I've known you, a long time.
Yeah, it's been a long time. We're filming, right?
Yeah, we're filming.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I just do go. Yeah,
no, that's good. Yeah, it's been, when did I start training? I started training in 2005. 2005. I started
long time.
training. Yeah,
a long time ago. So, you're Kevin Finley, and the more I started to know you, the more I was like, man, this guy's got a crazy, like, just a cool life. Like, you lived a cool life. You've done a lot of things. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I always say jack of all trades, master of none.
Well, I don't even go that far, man, because I think a couple things you've mastered, pretty well.
Yeah.
There's, mastery is a funny thing because you can always get better.
Yeah.
There's masters, and then there's like the masters of the masters,
Right.
But, I remember at one point you told me when you were young, a kid, you were like trying to be a professional golfer, right?
No, the professional fisherman when I was young, but then I got in the golf business later on in my life. I got in the golf business just for money. But I actually didn't play golf very much, and I actually still don't play golf very much. It's kind of weird because everybody that I worked with in the golf I strictly got in it for the money. Like, I needed a job.
Yeah.
And it's a tip job. Like golfing, when you work outside service in golf, it's tips,
Oh, okay.
And so I started doing that. Well, I originally got in the golf business because I went to work for Ping and started building golf clubs. Then after
I didn't know that either.
Yeah, I left there. I built golf clubs for 2 years. I left there, and in the meantime, I was like always trying to start businesses, and I was always trying to start businesses. I started this kind of lawn thing when I solicited realtors to get money when I started like 12 years old. And then I got in the golf business. I got a job at a country club, and then I moved to another country club. And so, like, everybody I worked with, they were all golfers. But I was just in it for the money. And so I got to where I could play golf pretty good just because I was around it so much. And people are like, oh, so you play all the time? I'm like, no, I don't play. I would, like, give members, the members at the golf club, I would give them, like,
tips,
pointers on their swing, and they would be like, come back to me, and they would be like, man, that's really great, or whatever. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, I've never even hit a 3-wood. I just, but I know how to swing one. It's crazy.
But then I think at one point you said you were going to have some I thought you said that you had some kind of product you were going to try to make with golf at one point too.
No, that was actually a fishing lure.
Oh, that's way off.
Yeah, but it was a product that I came up. So I had 2 kids by that time. It was like the late 90s. And back in the 1980s, when I was a kid, I used to like make fishing lures with like, I would like, I would cut wood up, and I'd make, like these crankbaits and stuff. And I made this fishing lure. Over time, I refined this fishing lure. I wanted a crankbait that you could press a button on, and it would go deeper and deeper and deeper with just a button, so you wouldn't have to like change crankbaits. So,
okay.
So I refined this over the years, and then in like 1998, 1999, I found an investor that was willing to put money into the idea, and then And then I quit my job at the golf course, and all I did was like meet with people trying to put this whole thing together. And I thought this is what I was going to do. I was going to sell these things and make millions, you know? And so, you know, it was kind of weird because it was like meeting with big executives from like GE because they think they're going to sell me like tons of this plastic material, you know?
Oh, okay.
And, but anyways, my investor went belly up, but I hold the patents. So I still have all the patents on it, but I never made the lure because, you know, it's just one of those things where you're like, well, do I want to, you know, I probably need $1 million. I'd be willing to spend $1 million in order to make 20.
Oh,
So,
really?
Yeah. So we were going to do it over infomercials is what we were going to do.
Okay.
And so, you know, I just kind of gave up on the idea. So I have like 2 lures at home, these crankbaits where you just press the button and the lip gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And they're like, it's like $38,000 for this one crankbait it costs.
Hopefully you never lose that on the lake, man. You better
you
better
only
never
throw it in swimming pools.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
And then you start. When did you start your steel business?
So
I mean, mainly gates, but you do all different stuff too.
So what happened with that is when I was working at the golf course for years, I was always trying to start businesses. And so I started this misting system company with Jim Stringham. But you made tons of money you made a lot of money in the summer, but you starved in the winter.
Yeah,
right? Nobody wants a misting system.
Yeah.
So then I started rebuilding.
Was it like aluminum or what were you?
No, it was copper lines.
Copper, okay.
And then we would put pumps in and create high pressure.
Oh, okay.
And then it would kind of like fog your whole back patio. So in the
nice.
summertime, you could turn it on, it would just go woo, and it would just this fog, and it felt like it was 30 degrees cooler.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was really nice. And then, so that didn't work out. So I started this golf cart. Like I would take golf carts, buy them at auction, and then rebuild them because I was a golf cart mechanic. I was always kind of a mechanic guy. I built motors and race cars and stuff when I was young. So I started doing that, and then I realized, well, golfers play in the winter and they don't play in the summer. Like the golf courses are empty in the summer. Like
it's so hot.
It's so hot. So you made money in the winter, but you starved in the summer. And so I was like, oh, that's a bad idea.
That's like flipped.
Yeah. So I was like, I don't want to do both. And so I started welding and building trailers and selling them in the Arizona Republic. I would sell them on the weekends.
Okay.
It'd take me a day to build a trailer, and I could sell it the
fast.
next week. Yeah,
right? Isn't that fast? I mean,
that's pretty fast.
Seems pretty fast.
But you just kind of get it down, you know.
I made some trellises at my house because I had this new neighbor come in and
you welded them.
Yeah,
Oh,
well,
cool.
I was gonna do wood, and I'm not crafty, so that's part of my year. This year I've been trying to get better with my hands, like be able to build stuff. Like I feel like useless. I never was taught any of that stuff, so I'm like I'm not okay being useless around tools. You know, like a man should know how to use tools. So my dad's like, just weld it. And I was like, I don't know how to weld. He's like, I'll teach you. And my dad has like a shop because he does landscaping. It's right around the corner here. So he shows up for 30 seconds. It gives me a 30-second welding lesson and then takes off. And I was like, he's like, just don't do this, don't do that, and you'll be fine. And I was and I thought I was doing good. Like I had this, it's about 3x9.
Right.
And all I used was wrought iron, not wrought iron. Wrought iron.
Yeah.
And so we're tacking them all. I was tacking them all, and I thought it was like pretty good. Then I tried to put it up. Like 5 of them broke the welds, you know. Yeah. And then I didn't know how. I didn't grind it very well, but it was my first try, and I had a 30-second lesson. But
that's probably just because it wasn't running too hot. It probably wasn't running hot enough at all. But it's not like welding's not like rocket science, but you just it's kind of like riding a bike. You know, you just kind of get the hang of it, and then it becomes kind of muscle memory. You just do it without thinking.
Yeah.
And then you don't have to do it for 40 years, and you can come back and you just do it.
Yeah.
You know, I guess it's kind of one of the things you got to do.
I felt like it was, if I did a bunch of these, you know, if I built a bunch of them, I would feel, you know, comfortable, but it would look better. I would have a smoother weld. It wouldn't be just all over, like my puddles would be better and all that kind of stuff. But
you know, what's funny about welding is it's one of those things where once you do it, like you start doing it, and then you've got a welder in your garage at all times, like, or whatever.
I almost bought one. I was like,
thinking
about buying.
Expensive, but you're like, well, how does anybody do without it? Like you think like, how did I do without this? Because now anything
Fixing
that
everything.
breaks, the wife comes to you, she's like, this broke. You know, you're like, I'll fix it.
I'll just
you know,
weld it. Yeah,
I'll fix that. You know? I mean, you just weld anything. You know?
Yeah, it reminded me of you though, because you're a welder, and I was like, oh, I wonder Kevin would be. It was so bad. I was like, Kevin would be shaking his head. I mean, this is so ugly and bad.
I don't know.
It's not up to par. But I feel like if I did it, again, if I did it for about a couple weeks, I would be smooth. I would do good, and I'd have nice welds.
Yeah, you could do it. Like the guys that I like hire in my company, like sometimes I'll hire guys that are like kind of just laborers, you know, whatever, and then we move them up to be welders, you know. And it's very few that I can't teach. Most guys catch on right away, you know. For you know, I'm not talking about like running overhead 70-18 or something like that. I'm not talking about that, but just overall, just welding with like a wire feed MIG machine type thing. They usually catch on. There's like a few guys.
That's what I was using, a wire fed.
Yeah, and those are, you could get it. There's just a few guys once in a blue moon. I had a buddy of mine, his name was John. He was horrible. Like, he could not catch on.
Really?
Like, he could. I was like.
It just felt like feel. I'm like, it's just a feel to this. If I get the feel to it, I'll be good. You know, I just gotta. I don't have it yet.
Yeah. That's like BJJ. You know.
This is true. You got to get the feel of it. That takes a long time.
Yeah, trust me, I know, because I did it for what I thought was quite a while, and I was still getting my butt kicked.
It's different. I don't know. There's so much to learn in jiu-jitsu. You know, actually, there's a lot to learn in welding too. You know, the level of your go in welding, because you can do, you know, X-ray. You know, welds are being X-rayed and all that kind of stuff. I know you can get pretty crazy, or underwater welding, or I'm sure it can get pretty.
Well, and there is. I mean, I don't do any of that stuff. I mean, we can do a lot more than what we do. Like, I've welded on bridges and dams and all kinds of stuff. I just don't do a lot of it anymore, because it's like I got to carry bigger insurance policies to do that stuff. I don't need that work anymore. I used to do, like when I first started, and to get back to what we were talking about, the reason why I really got into it was when my investor went belly up for the fishing lure, and I was like, uh-oh. I was like, what am I going to do? Because he called me one day. He's like, hey, by the way, your check's not coming next month. We're not doing this deal anymore. And I was like, I got no job. Like, he talked me into quitting my job at the golf course.
Oh, man.
So I was like, oh, great. So I sold my Jaguar. I had this Jaguar I drove around to kind of make myself look a little bit bigger than what I was.
Look the part.
When I was meeting with these executives trying to put this thing together. So I sold it, maxed my credit cards out, and bought a bunch of welding equipment and a welding truck, and declared myself a welder the next day, because I had been doing it on the side. I just decided, you know. Yeah, so that's
what
how
I am now.
That's how I started. Well, I remember sitting in a Home Depot parking lot, and there's like these things in life that you remember, like, that are like pivotal moments in your life, you know. And there's not a lot of those, because most everything in your life that ends up being good is a bunch of little things that you do every day over a long period of time that adds up over years. That's usually what ends up. Yeah,
for sure, 100%.
But once in a while, there's these one things that are like pivotal moments. And I remember I was sitting in my parking lot of a Home Depot, and I go, "Hey, Dad," and I was talking to my dad, and I go, "Hey, Dad," I go, "You know, I'm like, this investor guy said there's no money coming. You know, we're not doing the fishing lure anymore, and that was my plan." I'm like, so like, I don't have a job. I don't know whether to go back to the golf course or go back and be an electrician because I was working an electrician as well, or I don't really know what I said, but I'm thinking I just like buy a welding truck and declare myself a welder tomorrow and try to, drive around to job sites and scrape together enough work to make the money. I need to make $2,700 this month to pay all the bills. Yeah,
what year was that?
1999, I think. Yeah.
That's a lot of money, decent amount of money.
Yeah,
1999. If you start from scratch,
I did.
Like if you got nothing.
Yeah.
That's one thing I learned in business too. Like starting with some clients is easier.
Right.
Starting with zero and building it up from zero is hard.
Yeah, I started with zero. And my old man goes, this is what he says to me, and I know you talk about your dad quite a bit too. And my dad says, Kevin, don't do what I did. He goes, don't not take a risk because you think it's safer to do this or it's safer to do that, because what's going to happen is you're going to end up be 65 years old and look back and regret that you didn't take a few of those risks.
Yeah.
And he goes, the worst that can happen is you don't make it, and you can always go back to the golf course later if you want. And I was like, and I guess that's really all I needed. Like that,
Yeah.
I wanted to do it, but then my old man
Like
saying that,
push.
like, yeah, I was like, all right, I'm committed.
Yeah.
That's it. And so my first month, I got a job with Joe Arpaio at the welding hinge pins in the prison.
Okay.
And stuff. And I scraped together some other stuff, and I made $2,750, and I needed $2,700.
There you go. You got some profit. You made profit.
I was like, so I just, it was rough first bunch of years.
Yeah.
It was rough. People were telling me, you need to go get a job. And I was like, I'm going to keep going down this road.
Yeah. It's hard. Yeah, business is hard.
It is.
Business is hard.
It is.
I think, certain people have the entrepreneur spirit, and I feel like that's first. If you don't have that, then you need to work for somebody else.
Yeah.
Like, you shouldn't be trying.
That's true.
You shouldn't be trying businesses. Like, you don't have the drive to do that. It's a certain drive that I feel like you have to have. And I love talking to entrepreneurs, and I consider myself one. And my dad was one, and my grandfather was one. So like, my dad never gave me any like a business with like really any business advice, but just watching him run his business gave me the gave me certain things of like what I should do and what I shouldn't do. And he always treated people right. He never tried to scam anybody. He was almost took less than he should have, and even that was like a lesson for me. Like, know your worth. Like, don't shortchange yourself. Because sometimes my dad, I always felt like he wasn't charging enough. Like, I'm like, you're not charging enough. Like, you need to be charging more. Not too much, but like there's a middle. You got to find the price point.
Sure.
What's the correct price point?
You do.
So like, I felt like some of the things I learned from my dad was just what to do and what not to do. And he's had his business for 41 years, 42 years. So, and then he's never advertised ever. Not even put a thing in that paper.
Right there.
So that's just word of mouth. So I also learned, like, if you treat people right and you do a good job, they're willing to tell people about you. And I've always found like word of mouth is better, because I would trust a friend. Like if you said, Mike, hey, I know you want to get into fishing right now. I would trust your word of what to buy, the things that
Right.
I would trust your word, because I trust you.
Right.
So versus like an advertisement.
Right.
A person is more, there's more weight to it,
it's
so
more
like
reliable.
Yeah. So I've always tried to treat students right. And if they leave, I try to, as many of them leave on a good note, so that at least if they're not trained with me, they would at least tell, hey, you know what? I don't do it anymore, but like Mike's the guy to see for jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Your kids want to get in jiu-jitsu. Oh, Mike, I trust that guy with my kids. They don't do it right now, but like they was great when they were there.
Right.
So as long as you treat people right and be fair, I think you can stay in business. versus because a lot of people don't do that.
No, and you
shortcut. You know, like people try to
Yeah.
shortcut. You can't shortcut.
No, you've got to have a good name. I
Yeah.
mean, you just do. I
Yeah.
mean, and it's not just like, especially in a business like yours and mine as well, though I think there's like pieces of mine that are like outside of me now. Like I've got new customers that come on that really don't
They don't know you.
know me
Mm-hmm.
personally, you know, because we're kind of getting bigger and bigger. But having said that, most of my company, it's about the fact that the people trust me. They like me.
Yeah.
They think that if anything were to ever go wrong on anything, they could call me and
Yeah.
I'll make it right because they
Yes.
trust me.
Yeah.
You know, and so you've got to have that. Like you can't if you don't have that. I mean, you're looking for there's going to be a day come where things are going to fall apart.
So my dad named his business Dennis's Lawn Service, and I always like that's the lamest name ever. Like I love you, Dad, but like it's his name, you know, and
Right.
it's still to this day his name. Everyone's like, no, Dennis, and so I remember when I was working for him, they always wanted to talk to Dennis though because that's the guy's name
the
on
guy.
the thing, you know, like want to talk
Where's
to Dennis.
Dennis?
Yeah, where's Dennis at? Oh, he's on another job. You know, you can call him. So when I started this Strong Heart, I didn't want to name it after myself. And in this business where I do, you know, Mike Martin is nobody. You know, unless you win a world championship. And I'm like, I've never won a world championship. You know, so I want the idea of what this is or what I believe in to be the name, not me. And I don't want me to be the face of the name. Now, I'm pretty much the face of it, you know?
Right.
But, like, I want people to trust the name of Strong Heart and trust Strong Heart is a place to be, you know,
Right.
not like, oh, train with Mike, you know, this place to be. I want him, because I have a guy, Riley, that works for me, and he's a great guy, trustworthy, and he can teach just as good as me. And so I would like people to go, okay, you know, Mike only has people that work for him or train with him that are good, not just
Right,
Mike, if that
right.
makes sense. And
No,
it's hard to do, you know,
No, it
because people
is.
still want to talk to Mike, but
But
you know,
I have the same thing in my company. Like I have like a staff where I know I can send this guy.
Yeah.
I can tell him to call this lady at the office. I can send this fellow over here. I can send it, and I know it's going to
gonna
get
get done.
squared away.
Yeah.
It's going to get squared away. You
Trust.
know, I mean, and so, you know, I have some customers that they end up calling a couple of my guys now
Okay.
because they kind of know them more than me.
Yeah, yeah.
And they trust that they're going to do the job or whatever, and so. I like that, and I agree with you.
But that means you did a good job.
It's a good
you
package.
You trained them right, and
Right,
you hired the
yeah,
right people,
yeah.
which is not always easy
and
to do.
you can't like eventually once things get to a certain size, and that size doesn't really need to get that big for this, but once things get to a certain size, you can't do it all yourself.
All yourself, yeah.
Or you
I'm
won't
running
sleep
into
at night.
that kind of now, like
Yeah.
trying to do everything, and like, man, it's just too big for you.
Yeah, I know, and you can't. I remember I watched one of your other podcasts too, and about your sleep.
Yeah.
And I had this really bad sleep problem that happened this year, or whatever. And so when that started happening, this guy Greg in my company, I go, look, Greg. So he came to me actually, and he's like, hey, I can take a number of these things off your plate, and he did. He took
that's
He
great.
took them off my plate.
Oh, that's
and,
awesome.
Like it's been huge. You know, it's been huge. So like, because I needed it in order to sleep good. So.
Yeah, you got a lot of irons in the fire, though, man. I mean, because
know.
you're running that, and now you're a professional fisherman, bass.
Yeah, I did the FLW Tour this year. I'm not doing it next year. I was really happy I got the call. They asked me back, you know, for next year, but I had to turn it down for a host of reasons. But the wife and I are trying to have a baby.
Oh, that's cool.
And I've already got grown kids.
I know, yeah.
But my wife's, you know, she's a little bit younger than I am. She hasn't had any kids.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to do that again. And I'm like, kind of hard to do when you're like traveling, you know, the first 6 months of the year like I did this year. I mean,
yeah, the way to make them is you have to be together. That's how science works. If you're not in the same room,
Yeah.
and then she gets pregnant,
Yeah.
it's a problem.
There's a problem. So I was like, so we tried to like kind of do both, and we knew it was going to be hard this year, but like the FLW Tour, it's like it's an epic thing. Like it's a kind of thing that, and I've always wanted to do it. And it's like a thing you think about since you're 12. And then when you make it into your late 40s and they say, hey, we want you on tour, whatever, you qualify to be on tour.
That's great.
You're like, well, I don't want to turn that down.
No,
it's
yeah.
like $70,000 it costs you in 6 months.
Oh, wow.
It's a really big deal, So
To get in.
For your travel, all your entry fees. Entry fees are like $5,400 per tournament. You got 7 of them. And then you got to travel across the United States, New York, Texas, Florida, Tennessee.
Do you drive it all yourself?
Well, I
flew some, and then
I flew some, and then I had a guy drive my truck and boat around, and then I'm sponsored by Bass Pro Shops.
Yeah.
So I could keep my boat at any Bass Pro Shop. So sometimes I would drop the boat off at a Bass Pro Shops just somewhere in the country.
Yeah.
Drive my truck to the airport, park it in a long-term parking, and fly home for 2 weeks, and then fly back 2 weeks later, pick up the truck, pick up the boat, and drive 2 more states over this way, and then do it again.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
Dude. You're a busy guy. No wonder you're having sleep problems, man. You're in a different bed all the time.
I'm not kidding you. And I started having these sleep problems. I went on this one tournament. It was a championship that I qualified for at the end of last year, about this time last year, a couple weeks ago, this time last year. And didn't sleep good the night before. So then me and this guy, Scooter, we drove we drove to Oklahoma the first day or whatever, and I was running on like 2 hours sleep. And then I got there the next night, and I couldn't sleep again. And then I slept like 2 or 3 hours the next night, and then I couldn't sleep again. Finally, by the time the tournament happened, I hadn't slept in 3 days. I hadn't slept. And so I'm on the boat, and I'm like trying to pull the first day off. And I got this lady I drew in the tournament, and she's like, you're going to die. Like, you don't look good. Like, you need to go to the hospital, So I had to pull out of the tournament. 9 o'clock the next morning. I drove all the way to Alabama for this tournament. I had to pull out at 9 a.m.
It's probably hot there, too.
Yeah, so anyways, but I learned a lot about sleep, and I figured out kind of how things work and stuff, and so I sleep, good again.
Oh, that's good.
But it's not like it used to be. Like, now I have to, like, do things right to sleep right, and it's like, and some nights I'll get 6 hours, and some nights I'll get 4, and some nights I'll get, but if I can get 3 or more, I can operate. But it's like, I don't like doing 3.
Yeah.
But I can function, but it's just kind of crazy, man.
I've had, I don't even remember what I said on that podcast, but I've had sleep issues since I was a child.
Yeah,
I mean, like, I had some terrible.
You said that in the podcast.
Yeah, I had some terrible sleep issues, and my poor parents, I should say my poor mom, because she's the one that stayed up. My dad had to get up early. He did landscaping, so he was up at like 4:30 in the morning, so he had to sleep. Like, he can't not sleep. So it was on my mom to, like, make sure I'm not being dangerous at like 2 in the morning, walking around. And recently my youngest son started talking in his sleep. So I'm like, oh man, I hope this doesn't start over again. Like, I hope he doesn't have my crazy stuff. And I don't sleepwalk anymore. And every once in a while my wife will say that, oh yeah, you were saying something, talking. Sometimes I'll talk, but I don't do anything crazy anymore, walk around or, I work, I try to get my sleep in, because also my body just doesn't heal. Like, and now that I'm older, I'm almost 40, I have to have sleep. Like, I can't train like this, with these young guys and not sleep. Before I was like doing 4 hours of sleep, doing landscaping, coming here, doing this, I was doing 15-hour days, 16-hour days, and I was able to do it. But I also had youth on my side. You know what I mean?
You get older, you can't.
I can't. I got to take care of myself. So even now, I'm even trying to, like, oh man, I got to start eating right. And
I know. And I'm like, dude, I got like just the last. I don't know. It's been so my wife, and God bless her, she's just wonderful. But my wife, we got pregnant a few months ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then she miscarried.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
And so it was kind of hard on. It was really hard on her.
Yeah.
And it's like it's obviously always harder on the woman.
For sure.
And so, but right after she got pregnant, I was like, all right, well, we can eat cookies now. Like, we can do whatever we want now. And so I just started eating whatever the heck I want. And so I gained like 10 pounds, whatever. And so now I'm trying to get back in the gym. I'm like, oh, I got to lose my 10
You used to work out a lot too,
whatever.
I remember.
Oh, yeah. I remember. Well, it was the only way I could keep up with the guys in here, like, at all. Like, they were like, and I remember, you know, for everybody listening, you used to tell me, you're like, Kevin, you're trying too hard. Like you're not flowing with it, you know, whatever. And I was like, and every guy that I'd roll with, they were like, dude, you are super strong.
You were super strong.
I'm like, yeah, but you choked me out.
This is true.
I'm like, yeah, you choked me out because technique was just better, you know. But I worked out like freak. I was a madman back then.
Yeah, it's a weird. I've always like. I've done different things over the years for working out. My new thing this month, someone challenged me to do 3,000 push-ups in 30 days. And at first I was like, I don't know if I could do that. But then I figured out, nah, man, I'll just do 40, 40, 40. So I do 40 in the morning, 40 in the afternoon, and 40 at night. That's it.
3,000.
120.
30 days.
Yeah, it's 120, and that gives me Sundays off. Because
Oh,
I'm weird about my Sundays. Not weird, but
I am too.
My Sabbath is my Sabbath.
I take my Sabbath off. I never work on a Sunday.
Yeah, and but I try not to even be physical on Saturdays, other than play with my kids or my wife.
Right.
But that's it. Like I try not to even do work, like anything.
Right.
And so I try to do 120 a day versus 100 a day, because 130 days would be 3,000, just simple math. But so I've been doing, and then I just upped it to 50 push-ups, so 50, 50, 50, and I feel so strong. It's crazy. Like. And because of the time between, it's like 50 in the morning, and then it's like 4 or 5 hours. I do another 50. I feel fresh 5 more hours. It's not like, when you go to the gym, you're doing like 45 minutes, hour and a half. And by the time you're like just done, right? Like you're sore.
Right.
This is like weird because it's 40 takes me 2 minutes, a minute, you know?
So you think this, like, it helps?
Oh, I feel strong.
Really?
I feel strong. It's crazy. Like,
do that,
I don't know if I
like,
look any different than I was, but like, I do it strictly for the strength.
For the strength.
So I feel real strong. I think I'm gonna keep doing it. Just keep after this month. I wanted the goal, and I think I might add pull-ups and sit-ups and squats. So I'm just gonna do try to do. I don't know what the goal with push the other pull-ups and stuff, what I'll do yet, but he originally told me you got to do 100 pull-ups a day. I'm like, I can't do 100 pull-ups a day. Like I can, my max ever was like 12.
Yeah, I
know. I can't.
Why is it that even when I was at my strongest and I felt like I was an animal at my strongest, I felt like I was so strong. I felt like I couldn't do very many pull-ups. What is that?
It's
like
hard.
You're brutal, dude.
I don't know.
I've always been brutal.
Yeah, I always find pull-ups is like a measure of strength. When someone goes, yeah, I can do like 25, I'm like, you are an animal.
Yeah,
you are an animal.
Like
props
tendon
to you.
strength or something.
It makes
like, it's almost like.
Yeah, it's a hand strength too, because you got to hold the weight. You know, by like most weight, you're pulling or kind of like pulling towards you or pushing. This is like hanging is like, so it's like a lot of grip strength. You know,
it's not. I don't think it's like you don't naturally do that anywhere.
I mean, jiu-jitsu is a lot of pulling, so it kind of helps.
Well,
but most things, so you're not pulling. Do you find when you were fishing, endurance-wise, is there anything that you need to help you with endurance, or what is the? It's
kind of a funny thing when you're fishing. It's like, it's kind of a funny thing. Like the guys, you'll see these guys and they got the big belly and they're like, and most of the time. It's because they're traveling around the country and you're eating at Circle K. You know, you're eating at like truck stops and stuff.
100%.
So, but you'll see they'll stand up on the front of that boat for like 8 days. Like it doesn't bother. And then you be all in shape. And I remember when I got back into, because I had to take a bunch of years off from fishing. And when I went back, I remember my back was hurting and stuff. And this was like, I was like, man, like I've done all kinds of things and I'm in great shape and my back's like killing me. And it took me like months to get over the back thing of standing on the front of the boat. So it's kind of weird. You used to.
Because the boat's moving and
it is. You got to get your sea legs back. And then, but it makes a difference. Like you'll see guys who do it for a living. You'll see them as they get older. You'll see them trying to eat right. You'll see them working out. You'll see them, because what happens is like when you have a tournament, you'll go to the tournament, you'll get at the lake, you'll have some pre-fish days, and then you'll have like one day off, and then you'll have a tournament, which is several days long. So you're getting on the water. You're getting up at 3 a.m. You're getting on the water by 5, and you're fishing till dark. And then you come back. You have to retie everything. You're going to bed at maybe earliest 10 o'clock. You're getting back up at 3. You're doing it again. And you do this for like 7 or 8 days.
That's a grind,
dude. And it's like, and it's brutal.
Yeah.
I mean, after like 3 days, you're like, I can tell I'm 48. You know, yeah. It's
do you when you're doing that, do the hotels usually close, or do you get it like a camper? Or
I have an RV that I take to some tournaments.
Okay.
But I don't take it on the real long ones because
you want a nice bed.
it's because it gets 8 miles a gallon.
Okay.
Yeah. And where the truck gets 15, you know, pulling the boat. So I mostly just got like Airbnbs,
Okay.
you know, whatever. So
But like I'm saying is, if it's far from the lake, that adds to your time too, right?
It does.
Like,
Sometimes
then you might have to get up earlier because you got to be there by 5. You said in the morning. So what if you're driving an hour away? I mean, that means you got to get up at 5 or 3:30 to get there just to get the boat to the. Yeah, that's.
And sometimes you wouldn't book it early enough. You know, you'd be like, oh man, I need to book that one, and you get on there and you try it, and you're like, there's nothing within 40 minutes of the. So you're 40 minutes out from the boat ramp.
Yeah, that's.
You know, and you're like, oh man. And I went on tour with Marty Lawrence this year, and I got to know a bunch of other guys, but Marty and I were travel partners, and so we always shared the house, you know, whatever. And sometimes I would fly my wife out, and sometimes he would fly his parents out, and they would stay with us, and his girlfriend, and so like, so it was I got really good memories of it, but it was a lot. Like this year it was a lot. It was a lot.
Plus,
to
you
juggle.
have your other business.
Plus, you're trying to run the company.
Yeah, make
so
sure that people
you're
are
like
doing
on the
what they're
computer.
doing, yeah.
You know, you're trying to like tie on, and you're on the computer trying to like. You're like, no, wait a minute. You know, because your office sends you, and they're like, you got to call these 3 people. You know, they want to talk to you only.
Yeah.
You know, you're like trying to send you. So it was just
putting out fires,
dude. Putting out fires, man. And so it was a lot this year. But you know, you looking back, it was super fun. Now I've got a lot of tournaments coming up and everything this coming year, but I'm not going that far this year. I'm staying on the West Coast this year or whatever. So,
what's your favorite lake that's not in Arizona?
Lake Mead, but that's kind of in Arizona.
Kind of border.
So
that's your favorite lake, though.
That's my favorite lake.
What the fishing or the atmosphere or the what?
I like it because it's a really big stadium. Like Lake Mead. I like big lakes.
Okay.
Like I love big.
There's a lot of places to go.
A lot of places to go, and
Options.
I hate fishing on top of other guys. So
Yep.
when you put 200 boats on the
Yeah,
water,
yeah.
300 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I hate pulling up on a hole and there's 8 boats and you got to squeeze in. Like I'm
hard.
just not. I'm not. I'd rather go fish over here where fishing's not so good, and be by myself. Like I'd rather squeak out what I can, you know. And so Lake Mead's not like that, you know. Like
It's big.
you can.
It's a lot of finger kind of too.
Yeah, it's got a lot of fingers, and it's just a great stadium because it's so big. You know? So that's what I like, you know. But I like. There's some. You know, California is a little rough to fish in as far as like, you know, gas prices are like $6 a gallon or some crazy thing. And then you got to go 55 miles an hour when you're towing anything. So it takes forever to get somewhere. But I really like Clear Lake up there. I like the Delta.
And that's in Clear Lakes in California?
Yeah, both in California. I like the Delta. Sam Rayburn in Texas, I love. Grand Lake in Oklahoma.
What do you think's the prettiest lake? Like, not fishing, just like you're sitting at that lake, you're like, oh, God is good. It's got to be. He made something real pretty here.
Got to be Lake Champlain in New York.
Okay.
That place is amazing.
It's gorgeous, yeah.
Yeah. So we went there this year for the tour, and I had a couple guys that I was on tour with. They stayed with us, and everybody flew their families in, and I flew my wife in.
Okay.
And so
good to see this thing, huh?
So I rented this big spread right on the lake, you know, this big multi-million-dollar place, and it was insane. It was awesome. Like, it was so cool. So, and that was a lake where you're like how can you look at the sunset over the top of this lake and not believe that there's a creator?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I people ask me all the time with my faith and stuff, and I always like, man, just go on in nature and where I differ with a lot of Christians is I do believe in evolution. I don't know if we're monkeys, but I do believe that God made things and there's a way that He made things, but it's too perfect. It's like too perfect, like it's too. It's mathematics, really. Like, and I look at them like this is math. Like, there's order in math, and order. Somebody created order.
Yeah, well, God's a God of order.
God's of order. Yeah, and so I just look at him like this is just, and I always like I give thanks when I'm out there. Like, I'm like, thank you. This is amazing. Like, I appreciate you giving me this, like I feel honored to be here, and I feel more in God's presence when I'm out there than in this, because the city is man-made, you know what I mean?
Right.
It's all dirt and concrete, and I'm a city guy.
Yeah.
But it's not God. It's man-made,
It's funny you're saying that because
when I'm out there, I'm like, this is God-made, like I feel more in tune, know?
It's funny you're saying that because my wife, she's been saying that same thing for the last few weeks. She's been like, I want to go and be out in nature, and so that we can spend some time out there so I can pray and stuff.
Yeah.
And so like she really and she's been talking about it a lot last few weeks for the same reasons. It's like, sometimes I mean, the scriptures say that God's creation, it testifies to Him.
Yeah.
It points a finger to Him.
For sure.
So.
It's also quietness, too.
Yeah.
I have what they call it, like a monkey mind, where like my mind's always going, and I just feel more still in nature. There's less things like going on, when when I'm in my backyard, I hear the airplanes, I hear the traffic, I hear the, I have a big backyard now, but still I hear, your heater and everything, lawnmowers and stuff. Like, when you go in nature, I feel like I'm hearing God. Like, I hear. So, like, even the sounds, the thing, that even kind of speaks to me. Everyone's different, but I just, what do you think, what's the hardest lake to fish for you? You're like, oh, this is going to be a tough one. Like, this is.
Just kicks my rear end.
Yeah.
It's funny because I got it. Like, there's Lake Havasu in if I have to fish the main lake of Lake Havasu in the wintertime, it just kicks my rear end.
Yeah.
If I fish the river, I can do well.
Okay.
But you really got to fish the main lake to win.
All right.
Fish are bigger in a main lake.
Yeah.
And just, I mean, I remember I fished this one tournament there, and I was like 8 days there, and I caught one fish. In 8 days, I caught one fish. And the guy I was staying with, he's like, yeah, I raked him in today. I caught a whole bunch of, I'm like, how are you doing this, dude? I'm like busting my rear end. I can't catch anything. He's like, take this lure right here, put it on this pound test, cast it right there. I can't, I couldn't catch it. I don't know what it is about that lake, but it just kicks my rear end in the wintertime. So I've got a tournament there in February. I got to try to turn that around.
My friend, Peter, I think we're going to do a podcast today, actually. And he's just an amazing human being, but he's a fisherman, and he likes all kinds of fishermen. And I visited him when he was living in Honduras. He was a missionary doctor there, and he's like, we're going to go on the ocean. We're going to spear fish. And I was like, cool, that sounds more what I would be into, because I'm not patient. I'm not patient for fishing, and my dad is not patient. So when we went to the lake, we skied, or we swam, or like, let's see how fast.
Immediate satisfaction.
He had a jet boat, so when I was a kid, we would be like, bam, bam, bam.
The flat bottom one.
Yes, flat bottom. Yep, with the big pipes out the back.
Yeah, you got the headers coming out the back.
30 feet behind us. This obnoxious thing, and it's so loud. And so I grew up, and then we had jet skis, and so I grew up with that, and I wish I got into fishing, but my dad just never. My grandfather tried to get me into it a little bit, and I just couldn't focus, or relax.
Right.
I'm like, when is we gonna get this fish? Right. So I think maybe fly fishing might be a little bit more active for me, or something, and I got to walk out there. And so anyway, we're in Honduras, and he has this pretty cool spear rig, and we get on paddle boards. And man, I have no sea legs. Like I was like getting sick because it was just like this, and you have to snorkel. So he's going down, and he's finding fish, and every morning he'd go out there and he spearfishes. And I tried it so bad, and I told him like I want to try to do another mission trip to maybe Belize with him, and then go back to Honduras. And then he's like, well, maybe we'll try again, But the depth perception with the goggles was just making me sick. Like it kept changing the depth, and I would see fish, but I'm like, I don't know the range of this thing,
So now, is this the same place where I saw you guys had a video where you guys are kind of walking through a rough area, so you guys were staying in the middle of the street?
That was Belize.
That was Belize. Okay.
Yeah. That was like the second mission trip that I did. And that was like, yeah, that's a super rough place we were walking. It was like surreal. I'm like, I don't know if we should be walking in this area. There's a bunch of murders there at the time. Right. And it was all, when they're murdering people there, it's all gang. So like it's gang versus gang. They don't usually try to kill innocent people. Like, they'll kill innocent people if like, you killed my friend. Well, now I'm going to kill your family, that type of thing. But like if you're an outsider, they don't really attack outsiders. But I still I was really nervous down there. And the beach was beautiful, but that wasn't the beach we were at. They have a lot of fishing though in Belize though, like sea fishing a lot. But I was trying to get into it. I couldn't get into it, and I told Peter that I would like to go fishing with him too, because he likes to do river. He likes to go in the river and fly fish and stuff too. And I think he does real fish too, but he doesn't have a boat. So if you don't have a boat, you're not going on the lake as much,
Right. That's hard without a boat, unless you're fly fishing in a river where you've got a good area or something like that. We went down to me and my buddy Chris Culver years ago. He lives up in Casper, Wyoming. I went up there, picked him up. We went through Jackson Hole. We stayed there the night, and then we hired this guide to take us down this river, down the Lower Snake in Idaho. And so we drove over the line the next morning, over the border, and went into Idaho. And this guy took us down,
there.
Dude. This guy is like this little bitty riverboat. It's not very long, So he's sitting down. He's got the two oars, and then you've got these two posts that stick up, and they go around your leg, right? So you put your leg in there, and then you strap your leg in, right? So now you look like you're going down the river, and you're hitting the rapids, and you look like two weeble wobbles because you're strapped in, right? So, I mean, and he goes,
that's a good workout.
Yeah, he goes, everybody down here, they just fly fish when they go down. I go, we're going to bring spinning gear and Panther Martins. We're going to bring a little spinner Panther Martins, and we're going to bring spinning gear, and we're just going to like cast them, reel in the whole way. And he said he's never seen anybody slay so many fish. Like, we crushed them. Yeah, like our arms were like worn out. It was so good. We go, hey, let's go tomorrow. So we did it again the next day, and it was insane.
I took my family to Yellowstone this year. We were fortunate to do that, and we actually kind of went up the whole west. We started here and went up. We went to Utah, then we went over to Colorado, then we went to South Dakota, then we went to Wyoming, and it was so beautiful, like some of those rivers. And then when we were in Yellowstone, I saw a bunch of guys fishing in the middle of the like little streams there. Right. Like, oh, that just looks so beautiful. It's just serene, like peaceful. I could totally get into that. I could just be in the moment, I think. And they were pulling big fish out too, out of a river, and I was pretty impressed. But I would also be nervous because there's bears everywhere.
I know.
Everywhere. I'm like,
everywhere up
you're,
there.
they eat those too.
Yeah, I know. They eat fish, and
they're like, hey, thanks, man. You caught a fish for me. Yeah, this is my fish now.
Your arms are chicken leg. Yeah. They'll eat that too. It's funny because my wife and I, we want to go to Yellowstone next year, but it depends on whether we get pregnant or not.
Yeah.
But we want to go next year because I've driven now to 45 or 46 states in a car I've driven. So it was starting with my old man when I was young. My dad would just take us for 3 weeks across the country.
Oh, that's awesome.
And we would just go see things. He's like, we're going to drive all the way around the country. We're going to see Mount Rushmore, and then we're going to go see the Atlantic.
That's what we did.
Yeah.
That's what I did for 2 weeks. As a family, I'm like, let's
Yeah.
This is a beautiful country.
It's awesome.
We should see some of this country.
Yeah.
So that's what we did, man. And has she ever been to Yellowstone?
No, so I've driven all around Yellowstone a bazillion times, but I've never actually gone in it. And so I told my wife, I go, we got to actually enter the park this year.
It doesn't seem real. Like, I've seen some beautiful things. And on that trip, we went to the Badlands, and I thought the Badlands are beautiful too.
Yeah.
There's buffalo everywhere, and but Yellowstone I saw so many animals I've never seen, like bald eagles, moose. We weren't even deep. Like, sometimes in Arizona, you get far enough out, you could just see animals everywhere. But if you just go camping, you don't see as many animals.
Right.
In Yellowstone, you're just driving, and there's a bear right
They're
there.
like all over the road.
They're just everywhere.
Yeah.
They're everywhere.
I know.
And
that's what I want to see.
And it's just it looks natural, not like a zoo, Like, they're just doing their thing, And it was so gorgeous. Even the eagle, like, you just see this eagle, I'm like, just like a majestic. I'm like, that's America. I'm just seeing America, man.
Right
This is
there.
awesome.
You know what's weird is did you guys go down Jackson Hole?
No, I don't think so.
So it's weird. You're going down Jackson Hole. There's like Buffalo.
Where's
There's
Jackson Hole at?
It's just south of Yellowstone.
No, because I think we were east. We came the east side. My
I
wife
gotcha.
said this is a good entrance because there's less people come in this way.
Oh, okay. So if you go south to Jackson Hole, there's like buffalo everywhere, and there's like whatever. And it's like a little bitty tiny town, log cabin type, like lodges there and stuff, whatever. And you're just going or whatever. And all of a sudden you'll see like a 737 land. Whoa, and you're like, what in the way? And there's a huge
airport?
Like there's like a huge runway there with like this little thing and massive planes. Like that fly, and I guess they fly in there because people go from Jackson Hole's like a big kind of ski area, whatever. I guess they go from there and then they go to Yellowstone. So I guess there's enough tourism to support, flying 747s in this thing. Like, it's the craziest thing. You're like, is that a 747 sitting there like in the middle of the buffalo?
There's certain times where like you're like in a line at Yellowstone, but it's so big. It's like 200 to 300,000 square miles.
Yeah,
it's
crazy.
huge. It's bigger than some state, like bigger than Rhode Island. Like it's huge place.
That's
and
crazy.
It borders a couple states too.
Yeah.
And so like when you get far enough in, you're still like you can go by yourself in the middle of Yellowstone with 100,000 people there.
Right.
There's 100,000 people there, but they're so spread out that other than like the big things like the big geysers and stuff. If you go to those holes,
those are
for sure
be busy.
it's busy. But like there's places to go where there'll be nobody there.
Right.
You're just out by yourself.
Yeah.
And the bears are so intense there that every little shop you go to, they try to sell you bear mace. And I got suckered in. I'm like, I'm gonna buy a bear mace. If we go walking out here, my little boys, I'm like, I can't fight a bear, like as tough as I think I am, there's no way. Like, and I don't have any guns on me right now that are big enough to do anything. So I bought like the big, bear mace that probably would just eat you anyway.
Yeah, I'd have to bring my, my fishing. I was sponsored by a bunch of stuff, but my big banner, it's Nitro and Bass Pro Shops and Mercury. But Mcmillin Fiberglass stock. So I'm building a gun with him this year. I'm like, maybe that's my Yellowstone gun I need to bring with me.
Yeah, that would be cool.
I think if you shot an animal in Yellowstone, they would practically put you in jail and throw away the keys.
Yeah,
in there.
But there's hunting around there.
Right.
And it's funny, we came in, I think Cody we were at, and we stayed over there, and it's like a 30-minute drive, 45-minute drive into Yellowstone. But the hotels are way cheaper there, and it was a pretty place. And but there's a ton of hunting out there, and we saw a ton of animals out there too. Like it's just on the outskirts of Yellowstone, but the hunting is good there.
Yeah.
So there's a ton of hunting up there. You're just not in Yellowstone.
Yeah. And when I was young, I used to always when I was really young. Besides being a professional bass fisherman, which I always wanted to be since I was like 10. But I loved like mountain man movies,
Oh yeah,
Jeremiah Johnson, and I loved all that stuff. And so we used to go on these church. I remember one specifically, but we would go on these church camps. You know, when you're a kid and you're in Phoenix, Arizona, you go to a church camp. They always take you to the pine trees.
Yep.
Because they're like,
I did too.
It's too hot, to stay anywhere else.
In the summer, yeah.
Right. So we go up to these church camps or whatever, and parents aren't there, whatever.
It's great.
So yeah, it's the greatest. So there's all these kids. And me and my buddies, we are always the weirdos, man. So there would be all these kids or whatever, and they're all packing their Bibles and they're packing their shaving cream. I mean, they're packing their toothpaste and all their stuff, and we're packing like canteens and knives. We got the Rambo knife.
Yeah, the Rambo knife. I had the Rambo knife.
Magazine.
Where you could unscrew it. You had you could put fishing line in there.
It has a compass on the top.
Yep.
And so you could put so we would have we'd have all this stuff, and everybody, and I remember that on this one trip, the camp guy's like, you guys got the backpacks and all the knives and stuff. And it's funny back then, like nobody cared about the knives or whatever. You could pack a pistol back then, and nobody would even say anything.
Yeah, you're like, oh, you're gonna go shoot some targets.
Yeah, whatever. You're gonna shoot some stuff. So we would get up at like 3:00 in the morning and petrified. Like we're like young kids. We're like petrified. Like we don't want to walk out in the middle of the forest. And we would go, we have to be men, and we've got to walk out a mile out here into the middle of the forest in the middle of the night, like 3:00 in the morning, and build lean-tos. And so we would walk out. I'm not
with
kidding.
Flashlights or nothing?
Yeah, flashlights.
Okay.
Flashlights, and I'm thinking something's gonna eat me or something, But when you're looking at
little,
your buddy
and it's all black out there,
yeah.
and you're like, oh yeah, for sure, your mind starts taking over.
You're like a young teenager,
eat me.
And you're looking over at your buddy, and you're going, I wonder if he's scared. And then he looks at you, and he's wondering, and you're like this, I'm not scared, whatever. And we walk out there, build these lean-tos. I mean, it is like I was always like enamored by this mountain man stuff. And it's funny because obviously I don't walk out in the middle of the forest 3:00 in the morning anymore. But I watched Jeremiah Johnson. I like have it on my TV. I still watch the movie. I just love that stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, I always wanted to do that stuff. I thought about hiring a guy, like a survivalist guy, to take me and my boys out, just to teach my boys, because I don't know how to do much of that. I've done some backpacking before, but we were like, we had iodine tablets and then what is that? Ultraviolet light to clean the water. Because where we hiked once, the one time I went out, like we didn't have enough. We had just backpacks, so you had to hike in, and then there was a water. But that was your water source. So, like, if you wanted to drink water, you could be drinking that water.
Right.
And if you don't want to crap yourself for, like, 3 days, you better clean that water.
Right.
So I kind of wanted to do it just to learn how to, like, survive without the gadgets that I brought out there,
Yeah.
Not that iodine tablet's like a fancy gadget, but, like, it's...
Well, I remember that my dad, we would, on these trips that we would take for, like, we would get up into the high mountains or whatever, and I don't know, like I wouldn't do this today, but my dad would get out and he'd be like, we're gonna drink that water right there, we'd get out of the GMC Jimmy, 1984 GMC Jimmy, we get out and we just drink it, and I never got sick, and I'm thinking to myself, I would never let my daughters do this, Like, I wouldn't do this today. I'm like, how did we not, like,
how did
crap
you not get,
ourselves?
like, Giardia or something?
I know. And we would just, my dad's like, this is pure stuff,
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know, Dad. You're rough and tough, man.
My friend Peter was just telling me that he used to go camping with his dad, and they'd go fishing, and his dad would bring very little food at all. And he's like, we're fishing, and if you want to eat, you better catch a fish. And then he's like, he would bring no water, and then we'd drink out of the stream. I'm like, did you like boil the water? No, we just drink right out of the stream.
I know.
He's like, you just cup your hand and just start drinking. He said you'd always look for running water and like a pool, and then you'd always drink the top of the pool from the running water, so that anything. I'm like, okay, I guess that's a strategy, and you didn't die, and you
doesn't seem foolproof to me.
And now he's a doctor, and his dad was a doctor too.
Oh, wow.
So like, even if he's out there, it's like, your dad kind of knows that the water can make you sick. He's a doctor, But he's like, that's just, he wanted, I think, try to toughen us up, like, he's like, I remember he had like I think he said they had like a can of wieners or whatever.
Yeah.
And then if you got to eat, if you caught fish, you could have the can of wieners too. He's like, but otherwise I'm just sitting there watching, your brothers eat while you didn't catch anything. You didn't get to eat. Sorry, man. Like, hopefully catch something tomorrow.
So we speaking of going places with no food or anything. So this guy by the name of Scott Lockenbitz, I worked with him at the golf course.
Okay.
And he was like this really laid back guy, so laid back all the time, and I'm like, I don't know, I was 19, 20 years old or something like that. This guy's laid back, and he's like, hey man, and he was older than me, and golfer, and he's like, hey man, he goes, let's go to the White Mountains and go smallmouth fishing up there, because he knew I love fishing, and I go, I'm down, man, whenever you want to go. So he goes, all right. So we planned time to go, whatever. So the day before, I call him up, and I'm like, hey, what do you want me to bring? He's like, I got it covered. Don't worry about it, or whatever.
Oh,
and I was like, all right. So he's just gonna pick me up and bring my fishing gear, and bring some waters or something like that, and that's about it. He's like, I got it. I got everything covered. So he comes, picks me up in his blue pickup truck that he's got, and we drive, whatever. So we get all the way out east Arizona. We're past, pretty much all the towns, past the sign that says like no
roads.
It says no services next 80 miles or something like that or whatever, and I'm looking at the gas tank, and he's like on 1/8 of a tank, and I go, hey Lockie, I go, we better turn back at gas station like 10 miles back and freaking get some gas or whatever. I'll be all right, whatever. I was like, so I sat there for a second, for a little bit, and I was like, are you sure, man? I'm like, that's not a lot of gas. He's like, I'll be all right, whatever. So we get it. So on the way there, he then reveals to me that he didn't bring any food. He just brought beer. And he called and he called beer chilies. That's what he called. I got the chilies, whatever. And I was like, oh, man. I was like, so what are we going to, he's like, we're going to eat the fish or whatever. I was like, what are we going to drink? I didn't bring hardly any water. He's like, oh, we got the Chili Willies, And I was like, oh, dude. And I've never been much of a drinker. I drink a little bit here and there. To tell you how much of a drinker I'm not, I've never been drunk in my whole life.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know what that's like. Like,
okay.
I've never had more than like 2 beers in a whole day, right?
That's good.
So, yeah, just like, I want the first beer real bad, but about halfway through, I usually waste the rest of it.
Yeah,
the first few sips taste good. The more I drink, the less I want, So I'm having to drink beer on this trip. I'm just drinking beer, right? And so we're catching these fish, and there's like, we got no food. We're trying to cook these fish on the thing. And then and then by the time we get to the campsite on this Indian reservation, we got to hike down the canyon to get to the. So he reveals to me, I go, dude, we don't have any gas to get back. Like, we're going to, whatever. He goes, yeah, I've done that before. And I go,
what does that mean?
I go, what do you mean you've done that? He goes, well, we rented a minivan and came in here one time. I go, you went down that dirt road with a minivan before? He goes, yeah, it was a bunch of us, so we rented. He goes, and we ran out of gas because I didn't stop. And I'm like, you just did it again?
What?
Yeah, I could not believe it, dude. And I've told this story so many times because it's the craziest. But this guy, and here I'm worried. I'm like, dude, we're
He's
gonna
all
have to
totally
walk
relaxed.
and he's like, have a
work
chili
out.
Willy, man, have a chili. And like he did it again. And then I get chased by a bear. Yeah, I did. I got full blown chased by a bear. I walked on water like Jesus after this thing came up behind me. And I ran, and then I got lost because I ran so far I didn't know where where I was. And so anyways, we ended up getting out of there. Like, I don't know how that truck made it back. Sat on E, and we drove all the way back. Yeah, I was like, what are we running, air pollution or what? And but that was the only trip that I've ever been on where somebody told me we had no food and we had to cook the fish.
Well, you survived.
You have survived. And it's a good story.
It is a good story. Sometimes, like, those are those things where, like, when you're in it, like, oh, this is terrible. But then when you tell the story later, like, This is a good story.
Oh,
though.
yeah,
Like,
that's a
at the
good-
time,
makes for
this
the
kind of
best
sucked,
stories,
but like, it's a good story.
It's a good story. Yeah.
We didn't even talk about at one point just became a male model,
Oh yeah. So
and I remember you telling me like, Mike, if you're a certain age and you're a man and you're still in shape, you could be a model. I'm like, no, you have to actually be good looking too, Kevin. Like, yeah, you can't just be in shape
I'm
and
proof
just
that's not the case.
You have to have nice hair and like I'm bald. I don't think I could be a model, man.
No, there's a guy that I did a bunch of commercials with. He's got your same hairline. Like,
Oh yeah.
but he's just really good on camera. Like, it looked good on camera or whatever. In fact, I saw, how Facebook pops up, stuff from a year ago today and 10 years
Memories,
ago today. Yeah, and he just popped up the other day on a commercial we did for, I think, the Sheraton Hotels or whatever.
Do you ever still do stuff? Or?
No, I don't really do anything anymore. So that was like, so what happened is it was really, honestly, the whole reason why I got so many, like, and mostly what I did was commercials.
Mm-hmm.
And I did some catalogs, like men catalogs for suits, and I did some Italian clothing company I did, and I did some Canon camera stuff, and I was on a big billboard in New York for a while, and I've done commercials for Mercedes, BMW,
That's
different
awesome,
stuff.
man.
But the reason why I have all that is because of Strongheart.
What?
As crazy as that sounds. So what happened is I was like, if you don't remember, when I first started training with you, I was like almost 200 pounds. I was like 195 pounds, but I was big
You were
and muscle.
big. Yeah, you were strong.
Right, I was muscle. But we did some in-school comps, and then we did I don't know, Mesa. We did comp or something like that or whatever. But anyways, and I wasn't good at that weight. Like, I was too big.
Yeah.
For that. So
Well, your height.
yeah.
You're not super tall.
Right.
So like at that height, at that weight, most of the guys are taller.
Yeah, they're cutting down from 215.
Yes.
And
yes.
I'm like a 160-pound guy sitting at 195.
Yes, exactly.
So I decided, I was like, you know what? I'm going to go down to 155. So, yeah.
Crazy,
so
dude.
That's
a lot of weight.
A lot of weight. So I don't know if you remember this, but I disappeared from here for like 2-3 months. And I don't know all the reasons why I did that, but I hit this diet. I ripped up. I took these anti-estrogen pills and all this stuff, whatever. Probably, like, the whole thing probably wasn't healthy, by the way. But anyways, so I just and I was just like ripped,
shredded,
like you could just shredded.
Oh,
you
I
could
remember.
see like my veins and everything.
I remember.
And I was like 158, and I was like, and then when I came back, I remember you're like, you've been gone for a few months, like you're like, you gotten huge or whatever, and I'm like, no, I actually lost 20 pounds or whatever, and you're like, yeah, I guess that's what it is, because like you're just ripped up,
shredded, yeah.
So what happened is after I screwed my back up because I was originally I screwed my back up from squatting. And so after these things happened or whatever, and I had to stop training so much and stuff, I looked good, and I was like, well, I'm not fighting as much anymore, and I broke a couple of teeth in here or whatever.
I remember that too.
Yeah, so I've got a couple of veneers now. Fix that, right? So now my smile was back to normal because my mom was like, "You have broken teeth. You need to get your teeth fixed."
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm gonna try to see if I can like do some kind of male modeling stuff or like suits and stuff or whatever. So I called this guy up, and then
where did you find this guy? You're just like, I just gotta call the guy.
I looked on the internet. I found this guy by the name of Jeff Gleason, and it said he was a photographer for men models, men like in Arizona or whatever. So I call him up, and this guy's like one of my best buddies now. But I call him up, and he goes, yeah, you look great, man. He's like, we're gonna take some test shots, and we're gonna send them to Ford, agency, and see if we can get. So he did, we just took some shots, and they sent it forward, and I'm like, yeah, they probably won't sign me, but and then like 3 hours later, they called me. They're like, we want to see you today or whatever.
Wow!
And they signed me that day, dude.
What?
Yeah, and it's all because of here.
I mean,
well, because I was training.
you
here,
got shredded, and then you were a good-looking guy, so you worked out.
Yeah, I don't know about the good-looking, but I was shredded. So I said, okay, and then like a month later, I was on a magazine cover or whatever.
That's
it was
surreal,
stupid,
man.
Yeah, and these guys.
This is what I'm talking about. You've had a surreal life, and you're like, what do you want to
weird,
talk about? I'm like,
it's weird.
bro, your life is crazy.
Crazy, dude. And it was sometimes like I remember I was on this one job where I had to act like I was doing like yoga on a mountaintop, and it was supposed to look like it's warm out, right? And it was in southern Arizona somewhere. And it was freezing. It was in the middle of winter, right? So that I'm like, so anyways, they're carrying this stuff up. We had to do it at sunrise, so they're carrying this stuff up this mountain, right? And I'm like you. I'm like a working scrub, like I know you used to do landscaping and stuff, and I'm a welder or whatever.
Yeah.
So these guys are like, dude, we're running out of time before the thing, and I go, dude, I'll grab the extension cords. I'll help you guys get this crap up the hill, whatever. So I go to grab, and they stop me, and they go, the talent doesn't carry things, and I'm sitting
They're
here
probably
like
shocked out of their minds that like the model guy is carrying stuff.
I'm like, you guys apparently misunderstand who I really am. I'm like, I'm just like here because people somehow think I should be here, but I'm actually not like supposed to be here. So I remember thinking to myself, I wish all my buddies were here to see this crap because they would laugh at these guys calling me talent, like because I'm not the talent, whatever. But it's like just things like that in my life,
But your wife's a model too, right?
She was.
Yeah. Is that how you met her, or?
I did. I met her for a shoot for
So
Vogue.
I guess you could say because of Strong Heart, you met your wife.
Yeah, it's like good. Yeah. So we were doing a shoot for Vogue for some clothing company.
Crazy, dude.
Yeah, and
that sentence is crazy.
I know, it's crazy, right? So we did this did a shoot, and she was the lady and I was the guy, and we were doing this 1950s thing, and she had to wear these 50s clothes.
Is that what the car?
Yeah, the car.
That's a beautiful shot, man.
Yeah.
It's like I'm a kind of artistic guy, so like I can appreciate those kind of things. It was really pretty. Like it was like a cool spread of you on the car and her.
It was,
and
Brad Olson took those pictures, and
it was black and white too, right?
Yeah, there was black and white. There was some color.
Yeah,
there was published in some different magazines and stuff like that. I think Essier magazine did a spread on it too, and so that what's funny is because that's the day I met my wife, and so we have that picture that was published, some of the pictures that were published in our house.
Yeah.
And that's the day we met.
That's
we have
awesome.
These pictures.
People don't get.
That's pretty crazy.
That's a kind of a precious thing,
Yeah, it is.
I remember
neat,
also like before you met your wife, you would go to these tournaments and you'd have these young, gorgeous girls with you on your arm, and they didn't know what the heck they were doing. They didn't know what this jiu-jitsu. They were always like lost. Like, what are we doing here? And then I would like, I'll pull you to the side. I'm like, Kevin, how do you get these young girls? He's like, you were like, you just dance, man. You just dance. I like to go to country bars and I swing dance. I'm like, dude, I don't know how to swing dance.
Dude,
so for a while you were doing swing dancing competitions too.
I traveled around the country and
crazy,
did these dance competitions. And it's funny.
And women like to dance, so you would just go out there and just grab it, women and start dancing.
They like to dance, which is funny because my sponsor Kelly Mcmillin for Mcmillin Fiberglass Stocks. That's how I met him. He's a dancer and competes all over, and so does his wife.
Oh, okay.
And so now my kids do it and everything. But yeah, I would because. It was like I was.
Your girls dance.
Yeah,
too,
they
right?
dance, but
which is awesome because you can dance with your girls.
Yeah, and I dance with them all the time.
That's great. That's a cool thing you can share.
Blessing.
Share with your daughters.
And a lot of guys they don't really I think they underestimate the how much women love to dance.
Oh yeah,
and women they love to dance. Like
my wife doesn't, thank God, because I can't dance, but for my mom is
Yeah.
a huge dancer, and I always
Right.
feel bad for her because my dad won't dance.
Right.
So she'll go dance, and he'll just let her, dance with people. He doesn't care.
Yeah.
He's pretty secure or whatever. But like,
Right.
she loves to dance. Like I
They
feel
do.
bad sometimes that he won't. If my wife was like, Mike, I really love to dance, I would learn how to dance. And I think I probably have something in me because my mom knows how to dance, but like
Sure.
I just never, it's not something I ever did. But I would put effort in to dance if my wife was like, hey, I'd like to dance. Like
Right.
I would do it just because it's,
Yeah,
I
and-
want to make my wife happy,
Yeah, and-
happy wife, happy life.
Dude, that's not the truth.
So one of the pillars of my life.
Dude, that is a pillar of life,
Of life,
everybody. That
for
is a
sure.
pillar of life.
This is, wisdom.
I remember I was just talking to a guy yesterday about that. I was like, when your wife looks at you and she says this is fine, don't believe her.
This is not fine.
This is not fine.
Yeah. Or everything's fine. I'm
everything's
fine.
You need to bring the flowers, dude.
No,
you need
it
to
is
bring
not
the flowers.
fine. That is code for you screwed up.
It's so true.
Yeah, I mean, happy partners is just as important. But like for sure, that was one of the things that someone told me when I got married. Like, hey, look, you could be right or you could be happy. Which one would you like to be? And I was like, I'd like to be happy.
Happy.
He's like, just understand, like, sometimes you might be right, but you're not right.
Yeah. No,
Or-
it's totally true.
What, however you want to take that,
Yeah.
But I don't
No,
know. This is why I wanted on you here, man, because you had a crazy life, and I just like to talk to entrepreneurs too, and you're a pretty cool guy.
Well, hey, I appreciate it. Yeah, I have great respect for what you do here, and for all the time that I spent here too. Or whatever. Every time somebody says something to me, and they're like, "Yeah, my kids" or whatever, I'm like, "Dude, you got to send them over to Strongheart."
Oh, thanks, man.
I'm like, Mike's the man.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
What? How many sponsors do you have from fishing now?
We got Mercury, Nitro boats,
Okay.
Bass Pro Shops, DJ's Custom Jigs,
Oh man.
Castaic Swim Baits, Mcmillin Fiberglass Stocks, A&M Graphics, Arizona's Finest Roofing. Those are my big ones. I've got
Signature.
BD Baits and Signature Gate Systems Welding
Which
Company.
is his welding
Yeah.
company. They do
Katana
great.
hooks.
He made my bags. They're awesome. My for hanging my bags here. So
Yeah, no, that was fun. Yeah, so and really this guy named Matt Shura is really the guy that helped me out with a lot of my sponsorship stuff. Not Mcmillin, but when I came back, because I had to leave bass fishing for quite a number of years.
Yeah, I remember you told me that too.
Yeah, in order to take care of business. 'Cause
Yeah.
you got to take care of business.
You gotta do what you gotta
yeah,
do.
you got to do what you got to do. Like, there are guys out there who put, like, the fishing above the family and fishing above the work.
Yeah,
and it
but,
ends
like,
up, you'll
it's-
end up a
You end up alone
lonely
with
man.
fish. You know
yeah.
what I mean? You're all by yourself with the fish,
Right.
and that's fun for
Right.
a bit. But
Not too long. Not
Yeah.
too fun. So, but so I've always tried to keep that in the right
Mm-hmm.
order. And when I came back, I had known Matt for 15 years before, and he's like, "Hey, man," he's like, "glad you're back, and let's talk." So I really owe a lot to him. But
I'm not. I always wondered about the sponsorships. There's guys in jiu-jitsu, and I'm not trying to put anyone down, but there are guys even in the valley that aren't good at jiu-jitsu, and they have sponsorships. And I was always like, how did you get these sponsorships? Like, what did you do?
Well,
What
you
did you, and I've put zero effort into getting any sponsorships.
right.
But, so maybe if I just contacted a bunch of people and just
well, you could.
contact people until
Yeah.
someone goes, hey, yeah, I'll give you sponsorship. The other problem I have is like, some of these sponsorships, I'm like, I don't like it. I don't like them,
Right.
So I
Well, I've done the same, and I'm like you. Like, if I don't like something, I'm not going to accept the sponsorship.
Yeah.
I had a company come to me and said they were willing to pay me some money
Yep.
and give me free baits. It was just a bait company. Bait
Yep.
companies generally don't pay you unless you're really big time. So
Okay.
it was kind of a good deal. But I really just didn't believe in their baits. So
Yeah.
I said, nah, I'm going to have to pass. I really appreciate it,
Yeah.
whatever. So I don't want sponsorships that I don't believe in, because
Yeah.
I don't want to lie to people.
Yeah.
Like, when I tell people Mercury's the best motor out there,
'Cause
like,
you believe
I
it's
think it is.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Mcmillin fiberglass stocks are the best stock.
There, yeah.
They are.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody would say they weren't, but But you know, it's just like, and there's a lot of guys that are better fishermen than me.
Yeah.
I have friends that they fish better than me, and there's a lot of guys, and I didn't do very good on the FLW Tour this year.
Yeah.
But everybody likes me because I like everybody. You know, I just like people.
Yeah,
I like
me
people.
too.
And so my, you know, there's more to sponsorships and having business
To being the
partnerships than being the best at what you do. It's also about how you carry yourself and that type of image. It means basically it comes down to this. You know, does this company want to be in the Michael Martin business? Like,
Okay.
do they want to be in the Kevin Finley business? They're like, hey, I want a piece of the Kevin Finley train. Like, that's what I want to be a part of. That's a respectable train. And so I think a lot of guys in the fishing world don't get that. They don't. I'm like, yeah, you beat me in the last 6 tournaments, but like when you showed up on camera, you had a coffee stain on your shirt and
You're
you kind of
professional.
mumbled. You're
professional.
Right.
You handle
Right.
yourself professionally.
Right.
And so yeah, I don't know if I do. I don't know. I think
You
it's
do.
hard. I think it's hard for me to have an outside view of like my image or whatever, or whatever it is. But like, I was just curious about that because I'm like, man, he's got a lot of sponsorships, and wonder how you do that. And
Yeah, and I like business too.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like you. I
Yeah.
like business. Like I like doing business deals.
yeah,
I'm trying to put together this kind of big fishing deal where I'm going to sponsor a bunch of people and stuff or whatever. And I've been putting that together or whatever. And so I like doing business deals. I like it. You know, like it's fun to me. You know, so
cool. Is there anything else you want to talk about, or
no, I
don't want to keep you too long because you're again a super busy guy. doing
yeah,
a lot of
no,
stuff.
you run the deal, man. So I appreciate you having me over because I like just shooting the bull.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's just end it here before we get boring. I think that was a good one, though.
Yeah, no,
I had a lot of
appreciate it.
fun. Thank you, man.
Yeah, I like catching up with you.
All right.
So-
Let me talk for just
Peace,
a
bye.
second. Help me
Thank
feel
you.
that sense of rhythm. Find the meanings in our bearings and discover this position as a stage along the way. Another rung to the ladder. Either stalling or you're climbing, and I'd rather beat the ladder. Instead of getting fatter, let the footsteps resume. Naturally, we gradually might.